down.
1 month down. Short month, but still 1 month down.
Yep. So right now we are driving en route from Star Valley, Wyoming to Logan, Utah, which means the first stop of the crash course is in the books. We now have some things to talk about and a lot of experiences to share. So I figured first we'd just start answering some of the most common questions that we get, like how this came to be and how we got to where we're at and how we came up with the places that we're going to go, and just kind of see where that conversation takes us.
Do you want to talk about like why we call it the crash course? What that means?
Yep. Move it there. But first, before we even had the idea for the crash course, it started when I had taken this new job. That I started working for a company called Enerflow, and the unique part about that position was that it was remote, 100% remote, everyone in the company. So for the first time, we had a job that didn't require us to live somewhere. So I remember us just starting to think about, hey, if we could live anywhere, where would we want to live? And I think our first curiosities and excitements were about going international. Right?
Yeah, I really wanted to go somewhere for a year, like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Switzerland, somewhere like that.
Cool.
I admire the parenting, family philosophies of those areas. I thought it'd be cool to immerse ourselves in that different kind of culture. It's very different from westernized America.
Yep.
So that's what I was looking for, and then it was just roadblock, much red tape.
My first reaction to that was the cold. Those places seem so cool, but they get so cold. And so but I was intrigued by international, that'd be super cool, go try something out for a year. And so we started looking at warmer places to go, but also still trying to feel safe and feel like we'd be able to do things and not have too much of a language barrier. And then we thought we found one, and it felt kind of good for a little bit in Portugal.
That was really exciting. We were researching that.
It was a cool idea. It seemed to have a lot of expats there. The US dollar is strong. A lot of English speakers.
Really friendly, helpful people too. That community of people going to Portugal. They're just generous with offering tips and how to do it.
And then I couldn't stop thinking of the Somebody Feed Phil episode of when he goes to Portugal and has all the food. It'll be right there. But then I think the main roadblock for that was the time difference. And was really excited about the new job that I'd taken and really enjoy the company, but didn't want to work the graveyard shift, which we would have to do if we went out there. So,
which I guess up until that point I had never thought about remote work having limitations, but there are different types of remote jobs. There's digital nomads who build their own schedules and they can go wherever because they're creating digital content. You work remote and we have a ton of flexibility and
but I'm customer facing
income. Yeah, but there's still time zones that we need to be within. So I had never really considered that until we were looking at other countries.
Yeah. So that kind of stopped our international look because other places were either too cold or felt too dangerous or felt like there was too many language barriers or things to get through. Where international seems kind of out of the question. But the idea of going and exploring somewhere to live was still very attractive to us. And so my next idea, where my mind went first, was doing an RV. And saying, hey, let's load everything into an RV and go boondock it everywhere and just work remotely, get Starlink internet on the top of it, and join some RV clubs so we can have places to stay and just go see national parks and work wherever. And
that's where we learned about BLM land, or I don't know if you knew about that. I didn't know about that. BLM land, where you can just go stay on land for free. So that was a pretty cool option.
You need to be able to support yourself, but yeah, you can go for certain amounts of time, and so that allows us to see a lot of places. And we're not rich, so we had to think of ways that we could do it on an affordable budget. So we started looking at the RV, and it seemed affordable, but the only part I didn't feel super comfortable with is my work environment, because yes, you guys can be outside, but on days where there's bad weather, or days where we're not feeling well, or just days where we don't have access to a lot of resources, that's a pretty crowded place. Pretty crowded place to be sure that I'd be able to do quality work.
Well, and there's tons of different size options, and I was wanting some of the bigger models for, I think, more comfort in living space, but then you didn't feel comfortable driving or pulling something that big, and then it just became a lot of overhead. Like, that would be a new car to pull the fifth wheel payment, and then any maintenance or things that go wrong we're completely responsible for. And so it just seemed to be more like a financial, seemed like it would take us longer to start that kind of journey than do something like what we're doing now.
Yeah. So that idea didn't work, and then we thought we'd kind of just hit roadblocks, and that kind of wasn't going to work, but we still felt like attracted and called to, like, or had this itch for exploration to scratch. And then we had heard about Airbnb and other vacation rentals that have discounts for extended stays. And so we started looking into it, and we realized that, if we buy a month at a time at a place, the discount brings it into an affordable range, because we don't own the house that we are living in. We are paying rent, utilities, Wi-Fi, water, garbage, all those things, all of which are included in Airbnb. And so the discount that we were getting for the monthly rate started to, in a lot of places, be a money saver for us in there. So that seemed like a green light to us. So we started exploring and digging into what it would take to do that. And
there's no upfront cost, really. Like all the other options had some kind of like hefty upfront cost, and this was like we could just go.
Yeah. So then we're okay. Well, now we don't need a fifth wheel or a big tow behind. We could just get a little cargo trailer, load all our stuff into a cargo trailer, and go it around. And we stayed with that idea for a while. But the more that we started to prepare and realize what we'd want to bring with us, and the things that we were excited to learn and experience and come across on the trip, realized that we didn't want to bring much. So we ended up ditching the idea of the cargo trailer and just brought whatever we could bring, whatever we could fit inside this new car that we got. So it's got a third row that comes down, a roof rack on the top, and a tow hitch on the back where we put some bike racks. And so we started to really think, how minimal can we get this? How much do we actually need? And that made us think about the activities that we want to do, in each place, the types of, clothes that we'll need, gear that we'd need. We had to think about all the kitchen stuff that we'd want, because we can't guarantee that an Airbnb would have all the kitchen things. So we made a tow for that. We drilled it down to one suitcase for me, one suitcase for Jade. The boys share a suitcase.
I'm really proud of that.
Yeah.
I didn't think we'd be able to do that.
And honestly, we both said that we feel like we still might have too much, based on how much we used this month.
Yeah, I don't know about your office supplies. How you feel about that? I feel like the kitchen, we utilized everything in the kitchen bin. Like, that was good choices.
So
but
the
clothes, way too much.
Yeah, the suitcases. Then we have a large tote that fits my mobile office, which has my computer, my monitor, keyboard, mouse, all the things I need for the desk, a webcam, my lighting. It fits all that. It fits my fishing gear minus the poles, but all my tackle and our reels and our line, lures and stuff. And then I brought 3 wedges and a putter in case we have the chance to play some golf. And probably.
Did you take that out at all in Wyoming?
No. And there was a course right by, but we just spent too much time fishing. that
Hiking.
yeah, and hiking that we didn't get there. So those 2 totes, a kitchen and an office tote. So in our kitchen tote, we brought a nice blender, an air fryer, an Instapot, a water filter, and a juicer.
It's actually what we use the least. I thought I'd use that the most.
Yeah. But the air fryer was we didn't have an air fryer before this. We were like, hey, what would be something that's multi-purpose? So we started using an air fryer, and we cooked everything in that. We cooked chicken quarters, we cooked pork loin, we cooked fresh trout that we caught, French fries, vegetables.
Yeah, I don't know how we made it over 10 years without an air fryer, because we used it almost every night here.
So that was awesome. That's helped us out a ton. Then we brought a small tote for school supplies and homeschool supplies. Some games, some like card games and board games that we like. We brought a ukulele. And we brought a sports duffel bag, like a big duffel bag with some baseball gloves, which we used a ton, soccer ball, basketball, pickleball paddles, things that are easier for us to kind of do at a park. We can pick up and do it at a park anywhere that we're gonna be. We brought our fishing rods and a big tube that's on top of the car. What else did we bring? That's most of it.
It's almost all of it.
Basically all of it. Everyone got a good water bottle. And that's kind of the stuff that we drilled it down to, and we felt that we had plenty this first month. One of the things that I'm excited to figure out on this trip is what things we actually need, based on the things that we know that we want to do and that we do frequently, and that we want to spend time as a family doing. What do we actually need to support that type of lifestyle? And turns out it's very little, what we found so far.
Yeah, I kind of want to backtrack to the process of purging.
Yeah.
Because when we first started, we had initially thought with the fifth wheel, I could wrap my mind around putting our life into a fifth wheel, because that was still taking a good amount of our stuff and just redistributing it in this new space. But then whenever we decided to try to do our car and possibly a cargo trailer, that cuts down significantly what we can bring. So I had to kind of wrap my mind around that. And it was over a year, right, that we slowly started listing stuff, gifting stuff. And I think our comfort zone expanded. Like, we got a little bit better at being able to get rid of things the further along we went, because it felt really good. Like, every time you got rid of stuff, it felt really freeing and liberating and exciting. It wasn't as scary.
The more we'd get rid of, the more the trip started to think like it was becoming real. But I remember like having a hard time just starting the process of getting rid of stuff, because welcome to Idaho. All right, one state down. That semi just flung a rock at us. But I remember thinking like, oh, it just cracked the windshield.
No.
Oh, and it's spreading.
Oh, it's spreading.
Oh no.
Dang it. We're gonna have to get something on that right away.
Yeah. Well.
Oh my gosh. Well, that happened.
That just happened.
Dang it. Okay, well, can't do anything about it right now.
Yeah. Back to the good stuff. But I remember having a hard time starting to list stuff and have that process of selling all the things, not because I was like had attachment to them, but just because I felt like most of the stuff we'd had up to this point we'd gotten secondhand or had been beaten up by our kids, and I almost didn't have a value like in the stuff that we had.
Yeah.
So it made it easy when we decided, well, let's just try to gift as many things as we can to people who might need them. And I remember being shocked the first time that you put stuff out on the driveway and posted it on the Buy Nothing channel.
It was a lot. It was
Facebook,
a lot of stuff.
And stuff that I thought was like, I would have taken this to the dump. Why would we take it, right? But I was blown away at how quickly everything got taken. And I started to realize that, man, there's a lot of people who can use the things that I've been taking for granted. And it started to be really fulfilling to see that stuff that we'd used and gotten secondhand, and that was a blessing to us to get at the price that we did or at the time that we did, see going to people who were eager to use it or to take it. So that was
more motivating than I anticipated, the gifting.
Yeah. So that was really cool.
What was the hardest thing for you? Like, was there something that was difficult for you to get rid of or cut down on?
I don't remember a thing being hard to get rid of. It took me 2 or 3 attempts at drilling down clothes. I remember we'd go on purge days and just be like, okay, I haven't worn this in 6 months. I haven't used this in a year. And just if I don't use it, I probably don't need to bring it. But I had to do that 2 or 3 times and had to be okay. Everything that I bring has to have a purpose, has to have multiple purposes, and I have to love it. So I kind of enjoyed, that purge. It helped me pick clothes that I like. But the one, we didn't get rid of it, but I didn't bring it. I had a hard time not bringing my full golf set. And now I don't.
That is kind of a big deal, because that's like you're saying you're pretty much not playing.
Yeah. And now looking back on this first month, I don't know why it was such a hard thing, because it's just, there's so many other things that we're wanting to do and explore and experience that.
I thought it was interesting because there were a lot of things that I thought would be hard for me to get rid of, and it really wasn't, especially if they were going to people that we knew or people we knew would benefit from it. The thing that was hard for me was the kids' toys.
Yeah.
Like,
they didn't say that they had too much.
I always said they had too much, and I would purge it every holiday and stuff, and then they didn't even care for the most part. But and it wasn't all the toys, but there were like specific toys, and it was mostly the ones that were more like the cute wooden ones or educational ones that I wanted them to love, and they just never really cared about them, and I felt like they didn't really get used, and I kept having that hope, like they'll use them, and finally having to just admit that they weren't going to and let it go. But those sat there for a long time. I feel like I put off their room till the end. Yeah. That was more emotional for me, I think.
And we did keep stuff that we didn't bring. So we kept about 10 Costco totes of stuff, I think.
A lot of that's like stuff from when they were babies, that would memory things we want to keep, wedding pictures, certain holiday things that were passed down from my parents. And
then a lot of like camping gear that we'd spend.
That was like 3 bins on its own.
Yeah,
the camping stuff.
That, at least, that we know we're going to want to use again after this trip, but just didn't have the space to bring with us. We didn't bring our bed.
That was the hardest part.
Yeah.
But it's safe.
It's safe.
It's waiting for us.
Yeah. One thing we were forced to learn or relearn on this trip is how to sleep in a queen bed. Again, to all those still sleeping in a queen bed.
Props.
We spoiled ourselves with a king since we got married, and it's a big difference.
Well, we can say this. We got a purple mattress with all the bells and whistles. We got the bed frame, the mattress, the pillows, the sheets. So we did bring our pillows and we brought our sheets.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you suggested that we do that, because it made it feel more like home, and it was really comfy. But our pillows barely fit on the queen bed. Like my big king one was hanging off.
Yeah,
hitting the nightstand every night.
They touch in the middle and hang off to the side. Yeah.
Just brought us closer.
Yep.
Literally.
So then it became real when we decided that we needed to book our first spot. Right? So,
because we were kind of pushing off the timeline a little, because we were getting
a little nervous.
Cold feet.
Yeah. Getting a little nervous. Excited, but nervous that it was still in the distance and it was still kind of an idea. But we had to start picking places and deciding where we're going to go, and we knew that we wanted to go a month at a time. So we started picking places that sounded interesting to us first, and the list got really big. And then we're like, well, the idea is to learn potentially where we want to live. We have the opportunity to go live wherever we want with the job that we have. Where might we want to live? So rather than going to places we've been before, we decided to try to pick as many new places as we could. So that removed some things from the list, even though it was sad that they weren't going to be there. Then we really knew that, at least in this first year, we didn't want to have to traverse through inclement weather. So we decided we're going to avoid snow as aggressively as we can.
And that saved us a lot on not having to bring big jackets and snow gear, and like just the kids' snow boots and suits alone takes up so much space.
Yeah, so we can get by with just some layers, kind of from each spot. And so that kind of forced us to a route and made us make some decisions between some places.
We also thought we were going to be leasing a car with fixed mileage, so we needed an efficient route.
Yeah.
Really glad we didn't go that direction now that we're actually on there.
Yeah.
So that did kind of affect our course too.
Yep. But the route that we ended up coming up with started in August, this past August, in Star Valley, Wyoming, and then goes through I'll just say the states, and goes from Utah to Arizona to Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont. And that's the general idea. And we're trying to stay about 2 months booked out. Right? We can't afford to book the whole trip at once, so there might be some changes, but that's our general route, avoiding bad weather, seeing some sites that we want to see. But we had our route picked, and so I remember just one night we're saying, well, let's do it. And we went on Airbnb and we started searching around, and finally we found a place that fit the needs that we had. We needed 2 bedrooms, a dedicated workspace, some Wi-Fi, and access to the activities that we wanted to do. And we found one, and we booked it, and it became real. So then it felt like this thing that was in the distance. Now there was a timer ticking.
That was like a physical response.
Yeah, definitely.
I could feel it in my body whenever you hit book.
Yeah. We got the confirmation, and then it became real. I was like, okay, it's happening in August. And so then all the prep started. And the biggest thing that we needed was a car. We each had a car, but both were on their last legs, needed some work done, had really high mileages. We loved them. They served us well.
Made it.
But they would not make this trip. So we ended up gifting both of our cars to good homes and going on a car hunt for the car that would take us. So we wanted something that we could explore with, that can go off roads, so that we can go explore like national parks and mountains and rivers and just something that can take us places
comfortably.
And then one that looked good, right? We hadn't had a new car in a long time. We wanted features as simple as cup holders in a car. Like we were very excited, and we said, hey, if we're going to take on a car payment, which we haven't had in a long time, we're going to get something that we really like. And we thought we'd found one too, and I still really do like the car, but we'd found this Ford Explorer Timberline, which had all these amenities on the inside, all these bells and whistles. It was rugged on the outside, had all the capabilities that we need, and was in the price range that we were looking for. So we said, okay, let's go find one. So we went and test drove one, and we sat in it, and we loved it. And we were like, holy smokes, that's the car. And then we tried to buy it, and they're like, well, there's a recall on some settings, so we have to wait until we can get this update before we can sell this car. But this was probably in June.
We had a month. Because we thought this was like a one and done. We knew the car. We felt like picking the car was the big decision. Then you just show up and you just buy one or lease it.
We'll
so we only had a month.
Show up at the beginning of July and just get this car. So beginning of July happens. But they said, it might only be a week or so till the update comes out. We'll keep you in the loop. So we kind of stopped looking, just hoping to get this news that the recall would be done. They could do the update. We can go buy the car we wanted. And it just didn't happen. So we had to come to terms with the fact that we'd have to do something new. And it got hard to kind of then figure out, like, what's right. Do we want to go new? Do we want to go used? Do we want to lease one? What are we going to do around here? And so we just made a list, and we said, okay, well, let's just put all the must-haves on a list, all the really wants on a list, and a price range that we're looking for on this.
Of all the things we did to prepare and the pivots we made and everything, that was the most devastating blow. The car. That was really hard to accept and like move on from.
Yeah.
But I am really grateful we found this car.
Yeah. So we made this list and we started looking, and we had found some decent options and thought we were kind of leaning towards one. But then in the middle of July, I left on a work trip that took me away for a week with kind of no service, no signal, no ability to help. And I was just stressing out so bad that when I come back from this trip, we'd only have a week left to find a car.
And that week needed to be other things.
Yeah, we had so much to do just to get the last stuff out, and we had a dumpster coming to get rid of all the stuff that we just ended up having to throw away, and so many things to prepare, and just buying a car I did not want to still be on that list. And so I was pretty stressed. But then I come home and I get to the airport, landed in Sacramento. Jade's coming to pick me up from the airport. And she gets a call, she goes, "I'm here." And I go, "No, you're not. Like, I can't see you." And so I'm panning around, and finally I see her in the window of this car that I didn't recognize. And she's waving, and I realized that she'd found a car. It hit all our, she checked all our boxes.
Funnest
Gorgeous.
moment ever.
And it was an awesome surprise. Huge weight lifted.
And it seriously, this car checked all the needs, all the wants, and then some. Like it just was perfect. It even came already with the racking and the double tow hitch on the back, so we didn't have to worry about finding those, installing those. Like, it was already taken care of. I just went to buy it, pick it up, drive it home, done. It was so easy.
It's rugged and good looking and efficient and large. Well, thank you. And it's just been perfect. So we got the car, we got all packed up, and then finally August came, and there was a little bit of a delay because the place that we wanted, it was really hard to find a place in Wyoming within the budget that we wanted in August for an entire month. Very difficult. But we found one for just over 3 weeks. And ended up getting that. So we had 9 days. We didn't check into our Airbnb until August 9th, but moved out of our house and turned in our keys on July 30th, 31st, whatever the last month of July was. So we had to kind of plan what we were going to do there, but we ended up just, Occam's razor, the simplest solutions, probably the easiest one. We had all the options. Ended up staying with my parents for that few days. At their house, I worked from their house. They had Wi-Fi for me to use, and enough space for us. So it worked out perfect. We're super grateful for that. But then we made our way up to Wyoming and got to our Airbnb, and that's when I guess the first stop became officially real.
Did it feel real to you though?
No.
When we first got there?
And it still kind of doesn't, because it's still the first stop. So the fact that I've gone places for extended periods of time and then come back. So even though we were living normal life and we were doing all the things and we were working and it wasn't vacation, I still think kind of mentally it felt like, oh, this is just something we're doing this month, right? But I think this next month, as we get into a new place and transition again, it's going to continue to feel more real each time.
I think it'll feel more real, but I think a weird but good adjustment is we probably will feel like we are on some kind of vacation. Not that we don't have structure, but we're just doing so much. Yeah. Like every weekend we get to go do something cool or see something really cool, more so than when we were just living in one spot in our house.
Yep.
Like we didn't get out as much. So I feel kind of like it's like a bunch of mini vacations.
It kind of is, yeah. Each weekend, right? Was we learned some things right away about Star Valley, Wyoming. It's a small town, and when something happens, everyone gets together to do it. The county fair was there the first week that we were there, so every day after work and school, we'd walk over to the fairgrounds, and there'd be a Just this big county fair, and the whole town seemed to be there. Restaurants would
The whole
close
valley,
down. The
not
whole
just the
valley,
town.
yeah. Was there, and we went to me and the boys' first rodeo and watched some bullfights
Up close.
Yeah.
Front row.
That was wild
Yeah.
in and of itself. The fact that like,
It's very stressful.
yeah, I thought the craziest thing to me was that all of the bullfighters provided the security and safety for whoever was fighting. But then each fighter, after they fought the bull, would like get hit and hurt and hobble around. And so by the end, like it's 6 injured guys protecting this last guy. It's like the last guy's got no protection. And I just thought that was the wildest thing. 'Cause
Some of them, I was worried we were gonna watch someone get like impaled.
Well, as these guys would get hit into the fence and over and this thing, but it's like, get this guy to the hospital now.
Like it looked like their legs were being shattered.
Yeah,
and then they would just jump up and hobble.
They'd get off and they'd walk up and then they'd walk over to their station and just provide security for the next guy.
Well, there was the clown guy.
Thing. Yeah.
He was there.
He was there too, but I just thought that was wild. I'd feel so unsafe. Not that I'd feel safe with a bull anyways.
You'd want to be the first one.
Yeah, I'd want to be the first guy to go. But they had, we rode rides and ate food and just for a week spent the evenings walking down to the fair. It was only a couple blocks from our house. The little house had mountains that go right up the back of it with trails to go up, and so there's a little star on the mountain. We hiked to the star a bunch of times, and a spring that we made a video about, which is super cool, that every 15 minutes or so it starts and stops from flowing out of the mountain. It's just this ice cold, crystal clear, super clean water that you could drink right from. So we'd hike the mile up the hill, get
Bring
nice
a
and
straw.
tired, bring a straw and just drink right from the spring and head back down. And that was just really cool to spend so much time outside.
That was incredible how much, like, everywhere you go, there's a national forest, a national park, some kind of really cool thing just right there at your fingertips.
Yep.
And we've lived in cool places where we can drive to cool things, but we haven't been that close to so many beautiful places.
And then on weekends, we'd go do whatever was in proximity. So our first weekend, we did Jackson Hole, right? That was the first weekend?
I believe so.
So we went up to Jackson Hole and just toured around. We took a stagecoach ride and had a elk burrito.
Oh yeah, an elk brat.
Yeah, and we drove through the elk preservation. We didn't end up seeing the elk there, but just being able to drive through like all that land and just get a first glimpse of like wild Wyoming.
And you guys got to fish there, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, so we fished. We didn't catch a fish in the Snake River that day, but we did catch a snake in the Snake River that day, which was pretty cool. We spotted it just crawling through the rocks. And I enjoyed visiting Jackson. I'm glad that we did. It was a little boutique-y for me.
A lot of dining, a lot of shopping, which is fun, but that's just not what we were looking for.
We were only there for the day, so we didn't do any of the like rapids or the hikes or the off-roading,
Apparently,
or
amateur hockey.
or hockey.
We didn't know about that when we went.
So we didn't do any of that. I'm sure that would have been fun too. But I enjoyed the next weekend so much more. The next weekend we did Yellowstone. The boys got their junior ranger badges, got sworn in as junior rangers for Yellowstone. So now Harvey has his Yosemite and Yellowstone junior ranger badge. Lincoln
We
got his
highly
first
recommend that if you're going to take kids to national parks, it keeps them engaged and excited about seeing things and finding things, and then they get sworn in as a junior ranger, and it's really cute.
So much fun.
So do that.
But we spent way more time than we thought we were going to spend at like Geyser Hill with Old Faithful and all the geysers and the hot springs.
Yeah, there's a lot to do there.
We saw Old Faithful go off like 3 times while we were there. We were there for so long. But the hot springs were really cool. We saw our first bison, which was up close when we didn't expect to. Kept our distance, but also admired for a while. It was
Okay,
really
don't
cool.
you think that's kind of insane that they only say 25 yards?
Yeah.
That's not far enough, I don't think.
I mean, yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that aren't far enough if he decides he wants to charge.
It's true.
I think maybe that's just their temperament. That's their tolerance. Maybe it's 25 yards. Then they start to get ticked off. Who knows? But he didn't seem to care at all
No.
that we were anywhere
He
near.
was in his own little world.
Did not care. That was really cool. Caught another snake in there. Saw another snake. Didn't touch or catch or handle any animals in the national park.
Nope, don't do that.
Yep. Didn't see a bear, didn't see a moose. We saw some elk in Yellowstone, and then we saw a ton of bison. And I remember this time we were driving through, and there was a huge line of people, and we were so angry at the person because we're like, oh, I remember my first bison. This long line. But then when we got there, we realized at the front why they were stopping, because there was baby bison like right on the side of the road, and we were looking at it over here, and all of a sudden, boom! There was one like right in our window. And we stopped and we looked for a second, and then we drove on. And then bisons crossed the road in front of us, so we got to watch them cross the road and just not even care about the cars at all.
No, one
like
probably destroyed that one car we saw. It was like just going right up there to the window. That was really cool.
So that was really cool.
And I didn't expect the landscape to be as beautiful or cool as it was.
Yeah.
Like all the volcanic stuff, the geysers.
We went to
it's like its own kind of beautiful.
To the artist paint pots and like the mud pits. Saw those. Those were cool.
That Sapphire Spring and Biscuit Basin. It was like bright blue.
Yeah, that was
my
really
favorite
cool.
thing.
So Yellowstone was awesome. We saw some elk as the sun was going down, and just did one quick drive. Drove through Teton National Park. We want to go back though and get that Junior Ranger badge. We didn't spend enough time there. We kind of just drove through. So that was the next weekend. Then the weekend after that, we did Lava Hot Springs, which was fun too. I'm glad we did it. Again, it's kind of a kitschy little town.
That was the kids' favorite thing.
Yeah,
that we did.
Yeah, as far as the boys go, I think they liked it the best, because we went to the water park and they did the diving boards and the water slides and the pools, and had a good time doing that. They didn't care as much for the actual hot pools, hot springs, but that was kind of cool.
One of them was 112 degrees. That was pretty hot.
116 was one of them.
Oh, I thought the highest was 112.
Nope, at the second one we went to.
Yeah, that was pretty toasty.
Yep. But we got the combo pass where you could do the water park and the hot springs. So we did the water park while the sun was out, because it was still summer and hot. And then we did the hot springs after the sun went down, and it cooled a little bit.
Worth doing.
Yeah, worth doing. Then we did a lot of fishing. So every day after work and school, basically, with the extra time that we did, we went fishing. And it was a learning curve for us, because we've done a lot of fishing the past year, me and the boys, but it's mostly bass fishing and panfish and things like that. But here it's all trout, and we hadn't caught a trout. I caught ones as kids, but I hadn't caught a trout in forever. Right?
I'm just learning. It's a totally different way to handle too. I didn't know that. Like
with the wet hands,
how to be more careful with them.
And
that was kind of cool.
A lot of fly fishing, which made me want to get into fly fishing, but that's a whole...
Save that for
yeah, that's Pandora's box I don't want to open, because I love my gear. So we'll stick to our normal fishing.
Forest school.
But we caught 3 different species of fish. We caught a bunch of brook trout, a bunch of cutthroat trout, and 1 Utah chub. We didn't catch any rainbows or any brown trout, which maybe we can change in Utah and add to our species list. Follow us on FishBrain. I'll post links in there. Yeah. So I think that was our main pastime. It was either fishing or going out hiking. We found this forest school where they do it 3 times a week, but we sent the boys once a week, where a class of kids their age would go out into the forest with teachers and learn about the trails and the waters and the animals and the plants, and just
how to cook outside.
Yeah, and just spend time outside, which was really cool. Did you guys like forest school? Yeah, forest school was pretty cool. But
that gave them a really good social outlet too. I think that was something that we were kind of wondering, is we knew we'd homeschool them, but we weren't sure how their social life would work. They're very social kids. But that gave them like built-in friends that they were seeing every week, and they really looked forward to that. It was a cool, tight-knit community.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I liked most about it. Yes, the landscape was gorgeous, the animals were awesome, but a town of 2,100 people, like, I was a little nervous about.
Get all the way in your seat.
But everyone in the town from the moment we got there was inviting and welcoming and very nice and excited that we were there and curious about, our adventure. That it seemed like every week we were getting invited to someone else's house to do something with them and just chat and hang out. So I was very pleased and happy with all the people that we met. And
not only like generous, like truly just generous, friendly people, but people who are passionate about their lives. Like everybody their careers were things that they were really passionate about, and all very like service oriented, like just wanting to help other people through their careers too. And I feel like quality people.
Yeah, I think so. Things that we didn't expect. One, I think I had an expectation that I would work from home while you guys did homeschool and stuff from the library. And it ended up being basically the reverse of that. The Wi-Fi in the place that we stayed, for as well as that place suited us, the Wi-Fi in the area of the home that had the dedicated workstation just wasn't strong enough to support my Zoom calls and that kind of stuff really well. We got the strongest Wi-Fi in the bedroom, but it was hard to couldn't get everything in the bedroom to work.
Well, your room or our room?
Yeah, the bedrooms.
Yeah.
Back of the house.
But the public library, which was 3 blocks from our house, had a little private office in there that I can go in every day with free, really fast Wi-Fi, very welcoming and clean. And so I had a little private office that I would go to every day while you guys got to stay at home and do stuff. And I think that worked out great. That's going to be something I look for in future spots, is what type of resources are available at the public libraries to work from, because that was great. What else? Anything you didn't expect?
Well, just along those lines, we're learning that we have to be more careful when vetting Airbnbs, because they'll say that they have a dedicated workspace, right? But that doesn't mean that the Wi-Fi is going to support it. Or they'll say that they have a kitchen, but we've seen that kitchen could just mean like
some plates
and a microwave. No sink, no oven, no nothing. So we just have to be more aware now. Luckily, nothing terrible happened to us or anything. But we're just becoming more and more aware that just because something says there's a feature doesn't mean it's going to be what you'd expect. So, but our house, I think, was better than what we thought it would be in almost every way.
Yeah, very simple.
Just the Wi-Fi thing was a bit of a and the washer dryer was really small.
Very small loads.
We had to do a lot of small loads.
But the house was very simple. It had everything that we needed it to have. It was very accommodating and right there near all the stuff that we wanted. It was perfect. But we skipped right over why we call it the crash course.
Oh yeah.
Right, that for a long
Jumped
time
right
in my professional career, I've used the rhino as kind of a spirit animal or alter ego, just because of the similarities that rhinos have to successful people. There's a fun book called Rhinoceros Success by a guy named Scott Alexander that I read. And
we're not related to.
Yeah, no relation. No relation, but great book. And so that's kind of like the alter ego that I'd use to help myself show up in the way that I wanted to show up, in a professional setting. But then as the years go on, that just became more about just me in general. I started just kind of embody that, and our family kind of, took that on too. And so much to where our youngest son, his middle name means rhino in Japanese, because Jade's a quarter Japanese, and we wanted to have some of that legacy in the name. So Lincoln's middle name is Sai, spelled S-A-I, which is Japanese for rhino. And a family of rhinos is called a crash. And we just thought that's a cool cool term for a group of animals that. And then we're like, well, we're going on this, this journey. We gotta have a little play on words and call it the crash course.
You made me touch a bomb.
They're playing Fruit Ninja. But also, like, we're gonna have to learn on our feet really quickly. So a family of rhinos is called a crash. We're going on this course that we can call a crash course, and kind of a play on words for the things that we're going to have to learn on the fly. We're going to have a lot of crash courses in things that we don't expect to have. And then it just got fun to kind of play on those words. So we established a homeschool for our kids, and Jade found a curriculum for them that they're following. They're homeschooling this year. Lincoln's in kindergarten, and Harvey's in 2nd grade. And we call our homeschool the Crash Academy, just playing on the names again. So it's fun for us just to find ways to remind ourselves about the types of character that we want to be, and just have a fun kind of symbol for that. That's why it became the Crash Course. So
I feel like we've gotten already so many crash course lessons just in a month.
Yep. We learned that even after you get confirmation of your Airbnb, you can't be sure that you can move there. Because a week ago, we got told that our Airbnb flooded, and they had to cancel and refund our reservation with a week left before moving to this next destination. So we got lucky in finding another spot. We had a crash course in Airbnb policies.
Packing the car.
Yep. We packed it was much easier to pack the car when we packed up in Wyoming.
To the point where we were asking ourselves, what did we forget? Because it seemed so much easier to pack.
There was more space.
Just getting more efficient.
We named the car Rhyperior. We play a lot of Pokemon Go as a family, and Rhyperior is the highest evolved of the Rhino Pokemon. And it kind of feels like superior, which this car is and does for us. Yeah, Sub. That's a Subaru.
Superior.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we've been at and what's gotten us to this point. We're excited for what Utah and the mountains here are going to have to offer us. So just stay tuned. We're going to post lots of shorts, but once a month or so we'll post a long format video like this and kind of update on everything as a whole.
If you want weekly little updates, you can listen to the Crash Queen podcast on all podcast platforms. And that's where I share just some of the lessons that we're learning, updates, things that we're going through. So you can go there too.
Or on the Instagram, our Crash Course. Do stuff there. But that's all for now. Updates to come soon. Thanks for watching.
New videos coming soon.
Like and subscribe.
Yes.
Lincoln, say like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
All right.
He's the